hosts, Mark Jeffries and Matt Pangrack. BTL is brought to you by Lowrance, Lose, Strike King Lures, Bass Cat Boats, Ducket Fishing, Spro, AFCO, Sunline, and TH Marine. BTL coming at you. Good Tuesday, everybody. Welcome once again to BTL Bass Talk Live, where we're going to talk bass fishing and anything else that we want to talk about. Yes, it is the Classic Review Show. Yesterday was a travel day for us, and Matthew, quite the experience for me getting home. You had a long drive. Me, I went through like 12 gates once I got to DFW. It was crazy. Got home super late last night. Fine airline that my son works for.
Is that said facetiously, or
no?
Did you go on a little bit of a
let's just say
roundabout journey?
I received a very nice tour of the DFW airport.
I got you. Yeah, I literally got back about 20 minutes ago, Mark. So after the classic,
I don't know what to say.
Brad Hallman and I went ahead and went 2.5 hours further east, I guess away from Oklahoma, to the Big Bite factory and headquarters there in Eufaula, Alabama. Brad has talked on the show about how he's developing a new bait for Big Bite, and they had the final drawings done for that with some of the designers. And we got to tour the facility. And I got a new hoodie, all sorts of good stuff. So Brad will have some stuff on that on his YouTube channel coming up. But then we thought we were going to get out of there at noon. We got out of there at like 5. And then I started looking at the clock as we journeyed back and was like, I hope I make it back in time for BTL, because it was like 13-hour drive. So here we are. We got a new Classic champ. We both made it back into the studio.
Yeah.
And we're both symptom-free as of Tuesday morning.
Yeah, there was the airplane was packed, both flights.
That had to be comforting.
It was fine, man. There wasn't a single person on there wearing a mask.
Oh.
The mask doesn't protect you from anything. Did you realize that?
Peace of mind.
In fact, the people that need to be wearing the masks are the ones that have it. At least that's what they tell me on the news. All right. So, and I know everything on the news is true. Anyway, we're going to talk BASSMaster Classic. We are going to talk some of the things that I witnessed. I kind of took in this Classic from a completely different perspective of the 20-plus classics that I've been to. And I want to say this, first of all, Matthew. We were in the AFCO booth on Saturday for a couple hours. And the folks that came by there, it was nonstop. And a huge thank you to all the people that showed up. And I actually have some homework to do.
What's that?
I got dispatched on some work, man. It's kind of funny.
What kind of homework?
So there was a couple there, and I'm sorry I don't have their names in front of me. We talked fishing a little bit, but they wanted to know what bowling ball and bag that they should order.
Oh, I got you. Is that a bowling ball that's sitting in the living room of your house right now?
It's 4 of them.
How much does it cost to ship a case of bowling balls?
I have no idea. It's 60 pounds.
Wow.
4 bowling balls. Anyway.
There are a lot of hernias in the bowling world?
No. No.
Lifting heavy stuff.
Anyway, but the other thing that we got is, see the new book that we have right there, Matthew?
Yes, the Bass Fishing Vault.
Yeah, and that was given to me by a very special fan, and I'm going to send him a big thank you for doing that. And I did a little research. That's actually a book that Ken Duke worked on.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, it's
and
really
you
cool.
have that book, right?
Yeah, it's got all sorts of. It kind of goes through the history of not just tournament fishing, like bass fishing, like all the way back to like the first bass.
Yeah.
And it's got all sorts of pullouts and replicas of letters and stuff like that. So I guess the two kind of cool collector items books, the Bob Cobb book, which he was actually at the BASSMaster Classic, did some really cool stuff before the final day weigh-in, came out on stage, brought him out for the 50th, which was really special, and obviously an educated group of fans in Birmingham gave Bob Cobb a standing ovation, and then you've got the Bass Fishing Vault there. So, hey, you know Ken Duke, you might be able to get him to sign that copy. That way you could have an autographed Bob Cobb copy and an autographed copy of the Bass Fishing Vault. I did multiple times.
Okay, I never saw him one time.
He was walking around busy. He's obviously the head of the
editor-in-chief.
Editor-in-chief.
Yeah. Fishing Tackle
FTR.
Retail.
FTR. It's got the insiders. If you're in the tackle industry, that's kind of the magazine that you go
to. Big shout out to Steven Johnson for giving me that book, and can't wait to peruse through it a little bit.
Is he another UPS driver?
Yeah, a lot of UPS people came by. Yeah, so very, very cool. All right, Matt, how do you want to jump into this? How do you want to break it down?
Well, let's. I think we start at the end and then work back to the beginning. Obviously, kind of our first impressions of the winner there, Hank Cherry.
All right, hang on a second because I got a list here.
Okay.
All right, I got to flip over one more. No, right there. Okay, I have something that once we get through the initial kind of review that I want to address. All right, this is something that I thought enormously about on the flight home. I had a zillion hours because of layovers and everything else, and I am firmly entrenched in thinking that this is the right way to go.
Is this a controversial viewpoint, Mark?
It might be.
Really?
Right? And I think that there's going to be some people out there that say, Jeffries, you're off your rocker, or wow, that makes sense. So I'm going to be really interested to see what the people have to say from a feedback standpoint on when I get into this, let's just say, new way.
Okay.
All right, so let's go ahead and get started kind of on your thoughts, work our way back. Hank Cherry got it done, wire to wire. Just kind of dominated all 3 days.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, what has been the most often said line in Bassmaster Classics in the 3 days? It's you can't win
the Classic on day one, but you can lose it.
Yeah, we can't really say that anymore because Hank Cherry came in with 29 pounds, 3 ounces on the first day. He had
a community hole.
Yeah, he had a dominating lead after that first day. Clint Davis was in second with 21.8, so he had like an 8-pound lead. And I mean, he just never let anybody back in the game. He backed it up with 16-10 and 19-8, which if you look at the standings, Todd Auten had a better 2-day total on the second 2 days. Stetson Blaylock had a better 2-day total on the last 2 days.
Yeah.
Seth Feider was right there. Lee Livesey had a better 2-day total. Hank, while you still have to do what you have to do with the classic pressure and the camera boats and all that, knowing you have a big lead, what happened on Rip Rap with Randy Howell coming in with the almost 30-pound bag in 2014 and Jordan Lee's comeback in 2 classics on Conroe and Hartwell. Obviously, crazy things happen, but man, it felt to me like it was over after the day one weigh-in.
I agree.
And especially once you saw how and where he was catching his fish, it wasn't a dicey pattern. It wasn't a single spot. I mean, it was what he said in his post-game press conference, which we can talk about that too if we want to a little bit.
We're going to get
later.
into that a little bit.
But what he said was, he pulled up there on the Browns Creek Causeway, which he kind of joked, hey, I'm letting everyone in on the secret spot on Guntersville. It's literally the most popular spot. He's like, everyone else in the field gave me the highway.
Yeah.
And he was shocked about that. Brandon Card got in there a little bit on days 2 and 3, and then your boy, who had a great showing, Gray Buck, caught some of his big fish off of that Rip Rap, but then kind of gave it to Hank as the tournament played out. But other than that, I mean, the most obvious spot on the lake. Now he did some interesting things there, but it just didn't feel like, oh, well, every fish is not. You're like, well, yeah, he's going to catch him if they were there on the riprap. The conditions are getting better and better for it. And he slammed the door with 16-10, 19-8, wins it with 65-5.
Yeah. He was at 9-1 in my odds.
That's a fair statement. What were your? Did you feel like it was kind of over before it began?
What, day 2?
Yeah,
after day
days
1?
2 and 3.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be a massive hill to climb for anybody else, especially when I saw where he was fishing at and what he was doing, and obviously there wasn't a whole lot of people going to come in there and try and track down what he was doing and jump on top of his stuff and everything. But very, very obvious, and the story behind the fact that he doesn't like to run when it's rough water.
The man after your own heart, Jeffries.
Oh, it was awesome. He said he didn't put a single drop of gas in his boat the entire week.
And wasn't really planning on that pattern. It just kind of the way
he doesn't like rough water.
The way it worked out. And, Bass did their best to try to create the drama and give people a reason to watch. And they kept replaying the 2013 on Grand Lake where he lost that fish. I think it's up to like a 14-pounder now on Grand Lake that he lost. And then, he lost a couple fish on that jerk bait this week that they kept replaying. But, man, when he needed to catch one, he caught one. And I thought he would be a lot more emotional on stage. But I think the guy had, the hour-and-a-half drive and the majority of the third day once he put a limit in the boat to really realize, heck, I won this thing. So it wasn't that big of a shock. By the time he watched everyone else weigh in, he knew not only had he won it, he blew the thing away.
Not a whole lot of drama, was there?
No, there was none.
There was zero. And especially with Bass Track, seeing what was taking place on the water.
Which was very accurate.
Yeah, it was really, really close. So not a whole lot of drama in there, but just a fantastic performance, closing the deal out all 3 days and doing something that really was no secret, Matthew.
Yeah,
it was obvious what he was doing.
It was really interesting. So on the final day of the weigh-in, I talked to some of the guys who had good bags, and one of the questions that I asked everybody was, and I probably asked 5 or 6 guys this, was why were there not more guys on riprap? Gray Buck said, man, he said, I caught some fish there, and I said, I'm going to go check Spring Creek Bridge, Randy Howell's famous bridge. Yeah. He said he rolled up there. There were 2 locals on it and not another competitor in sight. He said it was like a ghost town. Caught one of his nice fish on the final day. Had a great big day coming off of it. And he said, I don't know why. And it seemed like the common theme was a lot of these guys overthunk it.
Yeah.
And, they got some bites out of the grass and it pulled them away and they thought it would be a super shallow deal. And they said, oh, well, it can't just be a riprap deal for 3 days. And Hank had a little stretch of grass and he caught a couple on a jig there. But the lion's share of his weight came off of that. And he was talking about how he had some isolated boulders and was looking at little indentions and was doing some stuff along that. It wasn't just blindly casting on a corner. He was going further down than most people fish on that Browns Creek Causeway.
Yeah.
Which allowed him to get some bigger bites. But as a whole, most of the guys just thought, man, everybody's going to think it's riprap. Everybody's going to pound that stuff. The locals are going to be on it. There's no way that it's going to pan out. And everybody overlooked the obvious, and Hank went there and he said it. He said, they gave me the highway. And the fish were traveling on it all 3 days.
It was bizarre. It really was. I cannot recall a classic where things developed as they developed when it was obvious what was taking place.
I don't want to, there's no such thing as a, quote, easy win. But looking back over classic history, is this the easiest classic win that you can remember covering?
Let me think.
I'm going back to all the wins. There's either long runs, there's that 1 day of
Might be. How many? We need Ken Duke. How many guys have led wire to wire?
Several, but here's the thing. Listen, you had a big lead right off the bat, right? That he got early in the day.
Yeah.
There was no issues as far as, running, getting to his fish, whatever. He wasn't sharing the fish with other competitors. He didn't really have, in day 2 he had 16-10, which was still a good weight.
He had pretty good execution, too.
He lost a couple, but he landed a lot of key fish that you saw were hooked, barely hooked.
Yeah.
And on the final day, you're watching him, and you're like, okay, are the wheels going to come off here? and you're 2 hours in, and then he just goes bam, 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 bam. Yeah, yells, and he's done.
Yeah.
He was in
over.
early on the first day. How many guys have you seen come in early on the first day of a Bassmaster Classic?
Not very many.
Basically just had to idle from the bridge to the takeoff.
It was like a 5-minute run, man. Unreal. No, that is a great point, and could be, man. We're gonna have to look back. I wished I would have saw Ken. I wanted to get Ken on the show here this week or next week, just to talk about his thoughts and from a show standpoint. And we'll get into that here in a minute. It was wall-to-wall people, Matthew. Wall-to-wall people in the show.
Very well attended, and they gave out, those white. I mean, people were buying stuff, Mark.
Yes.
I see a lot of browsers at shows. I mean, people were buying stuff, and we talked to several vendors that we know, and they're very happy with the turnout and the results. I mean, I know Big Bite had to send someone 3 hours back to Eufaula to go restock because they sold out of everything after day one.
I believe it. The people were spending money. The whole coronavirus situation, it wasn't even really talked about.
Nah, it was a hot top because I did a lot of fist bumping.
I mean, some guys were like, forearms, hey, doing one of that.
But here's what I was thinking, though.
It was kind of weird, but not really.
When you fist bump, what do you touch? You're touching the back of your hand. And what do you touch every time you go to your face? The back of your hand. So now I'm thinking maybe handshake. Seriously, look, you just did it right there.
Man, you're like a germaphobe, aren't you?
No, I'm not a germaphobe, but
really?
I've fell into the hype, Mark.
Have you?
I've fallen into the hype. But no, well attended, but it wasn't, the expo was not miserable to be at. I've been at expos that are miserable to be at.
Yeah.
Like if you wanted to go, and they had great hot dogs there too. $5 a pop for hot dogs. Great hot dogs at the vendor.
I wouldn't know.
But it was very well attended, but you could kind of get around in the booths and actually look at stuff, and people bought a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. There were a number of BPT anglers there representing their sponsors and working in the booths and everything. And I don't know, man. I have some mixed feelings, and we'll get into a little bit of opinions, at least my opinion, on this after we talk a little bit more about the performance. I do want to mention Todd Otten, just a really, really, really good classic, even though Hank kind of pulled away from the field. Obviously, his best performance in a long time, and he's a stick, man. He can really catch him. He's paid his dues, been doing this a long time, and I was really, really happy for him.
Yeah, I was too. He won $50,000 for third, and I was thinking about it with the exception of Hank Cherry. Had Hank just come in with a pedestrian bag on the first day, that second through ninth place, all had had there not been a guy up front, we would have been talking about how it was the first classic in a while that there were so many key players that had a legitimate shot to win. I mean, there were lots of 5-pounders caught, lots of 6-pounders. We watched Lee Livesey and Fighter and Frazier and Blaylock and Otten all make charges and flurries on the final day. And had it not been for the guy who's 10 pounds ahead of everybody, we'd have been talking about what a slugfest this thing was between 8 or 9 different guys.
Do you think Guntersville truly showed what the lake's all about?
You look at the weights, and I don't think it did, because out of the top 25 that fished 3 days, there was one guy who averaged 20 pounds a day.
Yeah, I agree with
That's
you.
it, one guy.
I think the weather and the rain, we had a lot of guys tell us that the rain that came through on Wednesday really, really changed some things, that they had to change a lot of stuff on the fly. I think the weather played into it big time.
Did it surprise you? Hank came in with 29.3. The weather stabilized, areas cleared. You heard guys talk about, they're coming.
Yeah.
Guys were catching. But did it surprise you that, there was like a 23-pound bag on the second day by Keith Combs, 23.10, and then 21.13 for Lee Livesey and Seth Fighter on the final day? But did it surprise you that we didn't see any other big bags come in the remaining 2 days?
A little bit, but I really, really believe, based upon what the guys told me, that the weather played into that big time.
Now, this was the interesting stat we talked about. How many rookies, Mark, coming into this thing beforehand? 29? 28? 29?
I think it was 27.
Over roughly half the field in their first classic.
Field, yeah.
Right. And we were interested to see how the veterans who had been there would compare to the anglers who had not been there, because for so many years you've heard Kevin talk about it and Skeet and Ike and Ellie about making those early classic mistakes and getting rid of the jitters, learning the week-long process leading up to this. So I kind of went back and I did some math, and I looked at the top 15 in the standings from this classic, starting with Hank Cherry going all the way down through Luke Palmer. How many rookies do you think finish in the top 15 without looking, Mark?
Oh. Out of 15?
Yes.
4.
There were 3.
I was close.
And it was Stetson Blaylock's, I believe, his first classic.
Yeah.
The dude's fished like so many Forest Wood Cups. I mean, he's been an established pro for a decade, so I kind of put an asterisk next to him as far as true rookies, though.
Yeah.
You really had Lee Livesey and then Luke Palmer, Colgate, Oklahoma pro there in 15th, and those were the only 2 guys fishing in their first classics that were in the top 15. Now go down to the bottom. 11 out of the bottom 15 guys were rookies.
What did we talk about in our odds show, or what did I talk about?
Experience.
Yeah. And that really proved my point based upon the standings. I want to say this real quick about Stetson Blaylock. Dude is polished. And what he did at the final day press conference, because they changed things up. They only had one press conference day, as in previous years they would have a press conference after each day. They only did one on the final day. And, dude, he sparkled at that press conference. Yeah. Very, very professional. Yep. And was thoroughly impressed by the way that he conducted himself.
I mean, as did all Cruz and all those guys. But you expected that to be there.
The seasoned vets there.
The only one he really didn't seem like he was thrilled to talk to folks afterwards was
Hank,
the guy with the trophy next to him. Mark, I was like pulling teeth to get him to say anything.
Yeah, he was a little discombobulated.
Had you ever seen anything like that?
No.
I mean, he had his hand over his mouth.
No, dude, he was in another world.
You think that's what it was?
Oh, absolutely, 100%. I mean, eventually we'll have him on the show. It's going to be maybe a week or two, because obviously they fish Chick next week. This week, there's no way.
Has there ever been a classic where the guy doesn't want to talk about any bait that he threw?
Well, he did. He talked about it. And it was kind of weird what he said about that crankbait.
You know, he's like, I don't know. It's just a crankbait. I mean, it's just got kind of a crankbait. It's not like it's kind of a knockoff of a speed trap. Or don't got a rattle. I think it's called like Bloody Fingers or something. And then it's in like some color. It's like bright orange. I don't know. I call it mud hen or something. I don't know. It's just a crankbait.
Yeah.
And then the jerk bait. Yeah, I caught some about a jerk bait too.
Yeah.
Any other questions? It's like, okay. I mean,
it was one of the most bizarre,
right?
Just weird.
I mean, you think of the baits of this classic, and what sticks out to me is that speed N that Stetson Blaylock and Micah Frazier were throwing.
Yeah.
Because obviously they're sponsored by that company, and it came out, and it was the color that it was in, and.
Well, I will give him props, Hank Cherry props for this, because when the Gamer came out,
it did say Mega Bass 110 plus
It wasn't
one.
a Berkeley. It wasn't a Berkeley jerkbait.
He did put fusion hooks on it, Mark, though.
Whatever. It is what it is. All right, but there was, in the Gamer, there was no mention of the crankbait.
Yeah, it was a weird.
That was the first thing that he said. But
here's the thing. Here's the other thing that's weird is like the pattern was. It was an easy Gamer to write. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, the only guy who was semi-complicated to me seemed to be John Cruz, who was doing 3 or 4 different things with different baits and had his new, quiver that he was throwing. And a lot of guys throwing that new red and orange jackhammer that are going to be insane now.
Yeah.
To get your hands on. But other than that, I mean, Hank he did not seem very thrilled to have to face the media after his $300,000 win. Now, he wasn't rude. He wasn't mean. It wasn't like he...
No, it wasn't disrespectful at all. He showed a lot of class. Mm-hmm. It was just one of the most bizarre press conferences that I've ever been to in the 20-plus years I've been doing this. It was just different, I guess. All right? It wasn't disrespectful. He wasn't mad. I think he was just overcome with emotion, Matt.
And I really don't think he wanted to talk about his baits.
He didn't. That's the way he acted. That he didn't want to talk about it. Do you think he's in trouble?
No, he's not in trouble. But I mean, here's the thing I said.
Do you think he's in trouble? Seriously?
From his title sponsor?
Yes.
No. Here's
You
the
think
thing.
they're going to accept that? You don't think somebody in the corporate world over there at Pure Fishing is going to be pissed off?
Well, he had the
because
hooks,
he was
he had the
using
rod, he
somebody
had the
else?
line, he had the reels. I mean, I
dude,
don't know.
I'm
It just
telling you,
depends.
somebody is going to be upset
But here's the
about
thing.
this
Remember
deal.
what Randy did. Randy come from behind. He's throwing the Rapala DT6 in demon color. And this is a true veteran move. What does he do? He's smoking him on every cast. His Livingston is big. It's coming out there.
Yeah.
He's like, probably ought to catch one on a Livingston here where all these people are around. Catches that fish, shows it to the camera. The thing's got it choked. Then he goes and catches a 6-pounder on a chatterbait in the back. And what does everybody think? Livingston Howler gets the bait named after him, the bridge named after him. The thing sells out. I mean, Hank, could have tied on a cutter, could have tied on a fritz side, something. But that's a veteran move by Randy Howell to do that.
Dude, I think he was just caught up in the moment. I really do. I think it was an emotional moment. I know the dude's been through a lot, both on and off the water, and it was just an emotional thing, and that's kind of the way that he reacted. But I will give him props for being 100% truthful on what it was going. And the other thing is too, Matt. I mean, you can't hide it.
You can't lie.
Yeah, because of what's going on live.
It was a hilarious. So I follow Mega Bass on Instagram, and they posted that color he was throwing, and they said, "Looks like we're gonna have to name this one Undisclosed Jerkbait."
Wow. All right. Real quick, I want to do this. I have sketched down the finishes based upon my odds. And you know me, I always like to talk about what happened down at the lower part of the leaderboard. And let me give you the first 10. All right, based upon my odds. I had Canterbury at 2-1, finished 46th.
You'd have made money on him.
Vegas would have cleaned up. John Cox finished 21st, and I have more info on John Cox here in a little bit. Seth Fighter, 5-1, finished 4th.
Yeah, that was the one who tried to talk you down on that one.
Yeah.
So good call on that one.
Yeah. Matt Herron, 5-1, finished 10th. Just could not get that big bite. I mean,
he was always there. He had 18-12, 14, and 16-9.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was one Gunnersville Giant away from being in the top of this thing.
Yeah. Zaldane, 5-1, finished 16th. The Johnson brothers.
Yeah.
Massive disappointment.
Not good for the Canadians, but like I said in the Classic, you're fishing this thing to win, and I'm sure that, they know how to put 30-pound bags in the boat. They've had success on the grass here before, so.
Yeah, 47th and 34th. Then I had...
Speaking of which, is this where we talk about the Corey Johnsons? What our sleuthing got on tap?
Yeah, go ahead, man.
So going into this thing, and I'm going to pull it up so I make sure I get it right, but, Bradley Hallman and I had talked about how we like the kokanee beer. The... Canadian beer. And if you look at my Instagram at Matt Pegrak, it's me with the Canadian flag, 4 Canadians, me, you, and Brad Hallman holding a bunch of kokanee beer. So Warren McCrae and Zach White are these 2 guys who fish a bunch up in Canada. Yeah. And they
made
got
the trip.
kokanee. They called it the Great Kokanee Migration. Yeah. And they got it, as much as they could, legally bring across the border. Brought some down for me and Brad, so then we went out to dinner with them. But here's the thing. If you remember, I don't know if I should go through with this because then they know who they are.
What's that?
Well, they're the ones who gave Corey the beer on stage on the second day of the Classic.
That's all right.
Yeah,
I'm not going to get in trouble. So it's one of the most epic moments we've ever had.
Of Classic lore, I'm thinking the Skeet Reese fist pump behind the Classic trophy, right? I'm thinking the KVD, that deal at Pittsburgh where he was standing, holding his hands above, the Stanley Cup trophy.
Yeah.
I'm thinking... James Watson, where he made it rain going up on stage with the dollar bills. Iaconelli jumping into the crowd last year. And Corey Johnson chugging a beer on stage. Well, these are the guys who gave him the beer. And what you guys don't realize is there is a story behind this story, Mark. Like a big time story behind it. It's like blocking security guards, trying not to get kicked out of the joint.
Are we going to try and get him
afterwards.
on the show?
We're going to try to get them on the show next week to talk about how they had their part in Corey Johnson's epic brew crushing moment following his day 2 classic weigh-in. All right, continue.
All right, let me keep going here. Brandon Lester was at 6-1, finished 7th. Jamie Hartman, 7-1, had a disappointing event, finished I believe 36th. Keith Combs had a rally, had a big day 2, was at 8-1 and finished 14th. John Cruz, 8-1, finished in 6th. All right, now let me go down to the bottom. Let's see if I had the bottom right. Josh Busby, the team guy, finished 38th. Cam Starrett, one of the Federation Nation guys, finished 52nd. Cody Huff.
53rd.
Oh, it's 53rd?
Yep.
Okay. Cody Huff made the top 25, finished 24th.
Mm-hmm.
The college guy. Taylor Smith, 41st. Cody Holland, 51st, another Nation guy. And then Whitney Stevens was at 25-1, finished at 37th. So I think I did a pretty good job.
Our
man.
picks, I bombardier on the picks.
Not me.
Yeah, I picked Brandon Cobb, I believe, who weighed in 1 fish for 2.8 on the first day and 2 fish for 5.1 on the second day and finished 50th, Mark.
You were a little off.
I was way
off there,
on
Matthew.
that one. Yeah.
Little off.
And your pick was?
I had Matt Herron.
You had Matt Herron, who,
And then
who really never really contended for the win.
He was in the mix, but sure he had such a big lead.
Yeah. He had a top 10, so I'll give it to you on that one.
Yeah, and then my long shot was Gray Buck.
Yeah, and he finished 20th.
Yeah.
So both of your picks. My long shot was I had 2. I had Clint Davis, who I think just totally went for broke as this thing went down because he would know how to catch it. And then I also had Daryl Gleason, who finished 35th. So not great on my end on the picks. You had the thing dialed in, Mark, on both your odds and who was going to do well here.
Been doing this a while, Matthew. All right, everybody stay tuned. We're going to come back right here. I'm going to want people's feedback on this. I have thought many, many, many hours about this situation. We're going to talk about it. Everybody stay tuned. We'll be right back on a Tuesday.
The ultimate fishing system starts with Lowrance HDS Live. Upgrade to HDS Live with a Ghost trolling motor, live sight transducer, or Structure Scan 3D, and get up to $500 cash back.
Yeah, you care about gear ratios, inches per turn, and ball bearings, but most importantly, you want reliability and dependability in the equipment you use. Luz doesn't cut corners when it comes to the gear they build. The new Speed Spool LFS is the best $99 reel in the market. Go see for yourself.
We've paired one of the most iconic hulls in the history of bass boats with a proven lineup of trusted accessories. We're bringing you best-in-class value and performance, leaving others in your wake. Turnkey value, turnkey performance. The Pantera 2 is an overachiever in the 19-foot category. Once you hit the throttle, you'll feel the rush, and there's no looking back.
Kevin, what are you doing here?
Oh, I'm just filling in for Billy.
I need a 660 shad crankbaits in the Series 5 model.
We're out.
You're not out. You got all kinds of them right there.
We're out.
Kevin, I need 6.
Have a lollipop.
I do not want a lollipop.
Have a lollipop.
Do you have it in sexy shad color?
At Duckett Fishing, we have assembled the top pros in the country to help us design rods to give you a competitive advantage. Castability, strength, durability, action, sensitivity, weight and balance. and consistency. Combine that with the best warranty in the industry, and you have rods that are pro-driven.
Duck It Fishing, pro-driven.
I want to share to you a new product we got coming out from Sunline. This is the FC leader size spools that we have now. We've gotten a lot of requests for this. A lot of you guys use fluorocarbon for leaders only, myself included. And one of the problems you have is when you have a 200-yard spool, that might last you 2, 3, 4 years. You might even lose it before you even get done with the spool. So we've gone to a little smaller spool. These are 50-yard spool sizes. You know, that way you're not holding your line on forever. You can keep your line fresh, use it when you can, stores real easily in the boat. We got all of our popular line sizes that you're used to with our Sniper from 5 to 14 pound. If you guys are looking for a line that you're only tying for a leader, go check out Sunline FC Leader 100% fluorocarbon and give it a try.
Blue Water by TH Marine. Offering LED lighting solutions for your boat, trailer, truck, ATV, and so much more. Engineered and built to be rugged with waterproof and submersible options. Designed for easy installation, Blue Water is available in a variety of colors and styles. All backed by a limited lifetime warranty. Blue Water by TH Marine.
The name SPRO says it all. SPRO stands for Sports Professionals. When you look at the pro staff that SPRO has brought on board over the past 15 years, it's been pretty incredible. I mean, one got it just then. From the development of the rock crawler to the McStick, from the Fat Papa to the Little John series, when you tie a SPRO bait on, you know it's been designed by a professional to get the job done.
While I travel the country on the Bassmaster Elite Series, I simply can't let the weather be the reason I don't win $100,000. That's why I use AFCO clothing to keep me warm, dry, and protected from whatever Mother Nature wants to throw at me. My season depends on it. My career depends on it. AFCO, any fish, any water.
All of us on the Pro Tournament Trail use Gamakatsu hooks.
Why?
Because they are absolutely the best.
It's not about how many bites you get.
It's how many you put in the boat.
Gamakatsu makes hooks for every fishing style.
We didn't come this far to lose fish.
Did you?
For more information, visit gamakatsu.com.
The Big Bite Baits Kamikaze Swim On is a very unique bait, and it's got a full body but with ribs to give it a bigger profile but not more plastic. It's got a jointed tail that gives it a lot of action, as well as this up and down crawl type trail with holes and ribs in it, so it creates a bubble trail almost. This bait is supposed to be fished upside down or vertical like this on a grate for a chatterbait. I prefer it on a swim jig as well, but you can also cut it down and put it on the back of a finesse jig. You know, flip it around for some spotted bass or flipping docks. Anytime you want a small, compact, you know, little trailer for it, this is great for it. So check out the full lineup of swim-ons at bigbitebaits.com.
All right, we are back on a Tuesday giving our classic review from the Bassmaster Classic, the 50th version. And all in all, a very good number of days spent in Birmingham, except the construction. I'm glad I wasn't driving. You were driving around in that madness.
Yeah, it wasn't that bad.
They're building a football stadium. I thought it was another arena. But I was talking to my Lyft driver, and they want to get an NFL team.
Oh, you went Lyft.
Yeah.
I went Uber.
Yeah.
What's the difference between the two?
It's the same thing, dude. Same thing. Same thing. All right, a couple of things real quick. A number of people on the instant feedback wanted to know if we talked to John Cox. I did talk to John Cox, and he is currently evaluating what we discussed, Matthew.
Fill everyone in on what we discussed, Mark.
Well, when they rescheduled because of the cancellation of the chick event now.
The Elite Series chick event.
Yeah.
John Cox Fishing, both tours.
You want to do it?
No,
Go ahead.
I just was setting the stage because I thought you were going to set the stage to say, hey, John Cox is fishing both the FLW and the Elite Series. Now we're caught up.
Okay. So, with the rescheduling, when that ensued, there was a conflict, and now he has to make a decision on which one he's going to fish. So you made the suggestion, and Brad kind of chimed in there and made the suggestion that, well, he should fish both.
Mm-hmm.
And logistically, it's possible. You got a helicopter involved. You got all kinds of other stuff, 2 boats. And he is currently evaluating that situation. All right, the biggest thing is he's got to get approval. He told me this. He's going to have to get approval that he can weigh his fish in early.
So he would fish the Elite Series on Chickamauga the first half of the day, then have 2 boats because he has 2 boats.
Yeah.
His second boat would be waiting at, where are they, Martin?
Yeah.
Would be at Martin in the water.
And he gains an hour.
Yeah, because that's why he would start at Chick, because it's Eastern time.
Yeah.
He would hop in the chopper, or he would weigh his fish in at like 10, 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
Hop in the chopper, get dropped off at Martin, hop in his boat, and have the afternoon to catch his fish on Martin. And then he would do the same thing on day 2. That way he could stay in it for the Classic and the FLW Tour points.
Yeah. It's not that expensive. It's not that expensive for the helicopter.
Why would a tournament organization not want that publicity?
That's what I said.
Extending an olive branch, saying, "Hey, we're gonna make it work." I mean, you see people weigh in early all the time for fish that they feel are about to expire, for going home because they don't feel well.
Yeah.
Hell, just because they want to weigh in early.
It would be. How impressive would it be if he could manage a limit in both places?
What are your thoughts on that? I just have a sneaky suspicion that one organization isn't going to be thrilled about it.
I don't know.
What do you think?
I think it's good for both of them. Which brings me to my next subject. All right. You ready for this? It's not, we may go a little over today.
Okay.
All right. But on the final day, they brought up individuals. They brought up former Classic champs from the decades through the 50 years.
Right.
All right. In case anybody didn't see that, they started out with, who was it? Who they have up
Bobby
there
Murray.
Yeah, that's right. Jeez. Bobby
and
Murray.
they didn't tell him where to go. He kind of wandered around the stage until Mr. Clun came
by the
out.
way, speaking of wandering, one of the most epic moments in the entire weekend was the poor guy that drove in on the final day, Skylar Hamilton. Skylar Hamilton is the only guy in the history of the Bassmaster Classic to take a lap around the entire arena and not win. That messed everything up, man. That poor guy.
And then I felt bad for Mercer because...
Oh, he did a fantastic job ad-libbing
what
the whole
you don't
thing.
realize is Mercer's got an earpiece in it. He'll mention it every now and then. But he had to stall, do logistics, weigh in Skylar, and listen to the people yelling in his ear.
It was an unbelievable performance by Mercer.
And then they brought out Chris Zaldane under Cody Huff's name.
Yeah.
So then he had to deal with all of that.
Just an unbelievable job by Mercer on
anyway,
that.
So what they did was they brought out, I guess, they did a 50th year video.
Yeah.
And for each decade, starting with the first Classic winner, they brought out an angler to represent that decade.
Yeah. And I talked to a number of people about this. And folks, I'm just going to say this. There is a certain angler that when you talk the Bassmaster Classic, and forget about all the stuff that is taking place between these two organizations. All right? I know what's going on. The fans out there, you know what's going on. And whether Bass reached out to Kevin Van Dam to have him be a part of this, or Kevin Van Dam refused to do it, I don't know. All right? We don't know. But all the stuff that is taking place with this us and them and everything like that, look, I'm just saying, this is the greatest event in the history of bass fishing. He's one of the greatest anglers of all time. He was at the show. And for him not to be recognized, if he did not decline, which we don't know, all right, if he was asked and declined, or if he wasn't asked because of the animosity between both organizations, I just feel sometimes you got to put stuff aside and you got to do what's right. Hear me out on this, Matthew. What happens in the NBA a lot of times when you have an NBA player that comes back to an arena of which he has spent the majority of his career, but because of situations, either the salary cap or the player's request, hey, I want to be traded. What happens now when they come back to that arena for the first time?
They stop the dang show. They do a video montage of them, and the fans give them a standing ovation.
Exactly.
Most of the time.
All of the time, Matthew. All of the time.
I don't know if that happened with Durant, did it?
He didn't get a video.
Yeah.
But it did happen with Westbrook.
Yep.
All right?
Anyway.
But do you see the point that I'm trying to make?
If you think that that's controversial, that what you just said is not controversial. If it is on Kevin Van Dam's end in camp, then very disappointed in that. If it's on Bass's end, then very disappointed in Bass. I've talked to a couple people about it. I feel like it's somewhere in the middle, but Ott was there to hand the trophy off.
Yeah.
BPT guys, he didn't miss a day of practice.
Yeah.
And if he was asked and declined,
I don't know. We don't know. But as I reference to things that take place in other sports,
an absolute no-brainer for both sides.
He is the greatest of all time. All right. Multiple classic wins, and he should have been on there.
Well, let me bring this up.
All right.
You've been talking about who I'm intimidated by to call and talk to. Being at your job and the relationship you have with these anglers, Mark, do you not feel like you could put a call into the Van Dam team? And
I'll text him.
Why won't you call him? Or text, contact, email?
Yeah,
I mean,
I will text him.
Because the guy's won 4. He's synonymous with the Classics that he's won over it. He could actually,
Yeah.
He should. Yeah, I totally agree with you.
Yeah. No matter what the situation is, of which I want to make sure everybody understands, we don't know what the situation is. Because I didn't know they were going to do that.
No, neither did I. And then it was awkward with Ott. A
little bit, but not really.
He just was up there and off, and they didn't really talk anything or show anything about last year or talk to him. They usually do any of that.
What did I say before we left? I said, you know what they need to do? They need to bury the hatchet. They need to do whatever they need to do. Every single living Classic winner should have been on that stage, Matthew.
I agree.
Bottom line.
50th Classic. I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think he'd have gotten a lot. I mean, heck, I don't think Skeet even went.
No.
There are a number of guys that didn't even go.
Yeah. Like I said, man, there is some bitterness there, and that whole situation. It is such a travesty when it comes to the history of this event and what Kevin Van Dam means to the Bassmaster Classic.
Hell, you got Rick Clunn up there. You put Kevin up there. It's dang near 20% of the Classics that have ever been won have been won by those two.
Yeah.
8 out of the 50.
Yeah, I did the same thing, Matthew. I talked to a number of people, and they were enormously...
Nothing against the guys they chose. They chose great people to come up there. Jay Yellis, Davey Height, Rick Clunn.
When LeBron returned to Cleveland after going... wherever he went to Miami, they did a huge tribute to it. We talked about Westbrook. Westbrook either loved him or he hated him, but when he made his return to Oklahoma City,
it shouldn't have been an issue. They should have made it happen regardless.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what's he say? Sorry, I got dinner plans. Or Bass doesn't even ask him, and he's watching it, in his hotel room or on his way to Lake Fork, going, "Wait, they're recognizing us and didn't ask me."
You guys tell me, am I wrong on this one?
Dude,
am I wrong?
You're gonna get 100% agreement on that.
All right.
On both, I mean, it doesn't matter who it is. You're getting 100% agreement. I don't think there's anything controversial about that. Van Dam should have been out on that stage. That's all it comes down to.
Yeah. Yep.
Standing next to Bobby Murray and Rick Clunn and him and Hank Parker.
All right, it is what it is, but that's my thoughts on that. All right, this next thing, Matthew, We'll spend the remainder of the show, what time we have left. I have thought about this for a lot. I really have. And it's not just since this weekend. But you know what I witnessed this week from a crowd standpoint? I witnessed frustration. All right? The weigh-in, way too long.
Especially day one.
There were people that got up and left, and what I did on day two is I left a little bit early because I still wanted to see people that were milling around and kind of talk to them, and they were just like, yeah, I'm going home. This is boring. I already know what happened. I didn't even know there was a weigh-in going on, but I got all kinds of stuff all over the board.
From the show.
All right. And once again, the show was unbelievable. The tackle show, expo show, whatever you want to call it, just an amazing attendance. The people spent money. It was off the charts. But the arena, I felt, based upon what I saw and the people, the fans that I spoke with, it was a little frustrating. All right? Matthew, here is my plan. When you do things primarily the same way for 50 years, sometimes you got to sit back and you got to realize that maybe it's time to change. Now, one thing that I've done on this show for years and years and years is if I see, and in my opinion, I see something that needs to be corrected or improved, I don't just say that. I come up with a suggestion. All right? It's a different thing to go out there and start slamming things and bring up discussion without having an alternative or a solution to make things better. I think this would make things better. So hear me out on this. All right? Here we go. The classic field needs to be 24. 24 anglers. All right? And here's how the format needs to go. 20 anglers from the Elite Series. 37, 38, whatever that is, that's too many. And here's why. It's way too many competitors, and I get it. You got to work, you got to do this, you're spending all this money. It's the crown jewel, blah, 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 blah. You know what? There comes a point in time where if you don't perform and you're not in the top 20% or whatever the number is, if there was 100 participants, obviously the top 20 is 20%. If there's less than 100, it's 25, 30%. 20 is the number that it needs to be. You have earned the right to be there based upon you have succeeded at a level that other people haven't. Kind of an oxymoron statement, kind of the obvious, but 20 is the number.
Basically 1 in 4.
Yeah, 20 is the number.
When it was back there for a number of years on the Elite Series with 108 anglers, they'd bring 36, 37, roughly 33%, 30%, 24%. So similar to what it had been in past years.
20 anglers, okay? You bring in 2 from the Opens. Now we're at 22. You bring in 1 from the nation. You bring in the national champion. All right? Now here is where it gets a little creative. All right, because what's our number right now? 23, right?
Yeah.
All right, the 24th angler is a previous classic champion that is not in the field of which the fans vote in. All right, now you have the engagement of the fans. Now you have an opportunity for one of the legends in the game or one of the current anglers in the game that may not be having the best of the years that has that classic experience, of which, if the numbers are out there, if there's the millions of fans of this game, they should do a pretty good job at bringing in somebody that they want to see. So now your field is 24. All right, here's how it works during the week. Saturday, practice. Sunday, practice. Monday, media day and anything else that they've got to do. Okay, now what you do is you split the field up into 12s. You got 12 anglers competing against 12 anglers. You take whoever was the angler of the year, all right, So you got a number 1 guy, and then you have the 24th guy. So it goes 1, 24, 2, 23, 3, 22. You go down. You go top and bottom in that first group. Then you have the rest of them bundled up in the second group. So that first group of anglers, they fish on Monday. That means you only have 12 guys weighing in. The weigh-in probably lasts about an hour, hour and 15 minutes. They can take all the time that they want. The fans want to be there. All right? It eases everybody's week because now the guys actually have time to focus on their fishing. They don't have to worry about all the stuff that takes place with waiting. But more importantly, the fans at the arena don't have to sit there for 3.5 hours. Okay? So what do the other 12 guys do? All right? What is the most enjoyable thing from a fan perspective and the most participatory thing at the BASSMaster Classic, Matthew?
The expo?
The expo. All right? So now those 12 guys, guess what? Now you open the expo up to additional days, of which those 12 guys are actually being with the fans during the expo days. All right, so now you have day 2. Day 2, the next 12 guys go out. The 12 guys that fished on day 1, they're at the expo, mingling with the fans, doing stuff with their sponsors, resting up. They've earned it. They've busted their tails to finish in the top 20. The next 12 weigh in. The weigh-in's an hour, hour and 15 minutes. The fans flock over. Here's the other thing that you do. You know what you do at the expo? You shut it down. You shut down the expo during the weigh-in. All right? Thursday, second day of fishing. Friday, second day of fishing. Saturday, the final day. Oh, by the way, you have 12 cameras and 12 live streams going on to where every single person is being live streamed. All right? And the fans can choose who they want to watch between all 12 anglers. So now you get maximum exposure because you're going to have a camera in the boat every single day. All right? Here's the other thing. You shut down Bass Track at 1 o'clock. Shut it down. All right? You create that drama. And then Saturday is the final day. Not Sunday, Saturday. 12 guys, shut the show down when the weigh-in's going on. Massive, massive crowd because they're not going to have to sit there for 3.5 hours and go through everything else that they go through. All right? And then Sunday, you have the blowout show where everybody that remains is now at the show. The Classic champ is now at the show. All 24 anglers are now at the show. So where's the focus become now? The focus is on 3 things. The anglers, the fans, and the sponsors, because the sponsors get more exposure to the largest crowd of the year at the greatest event in professional bass fishing, and it lasts the same amount of time. There's no difference. All right, what are your thoughts?
I hate it.
Why?
First of all, I don't think there should ever be anyone that fishes the Classic based on a fan vote, whether they've won one or not. Take that 24th spot, give it to the previous year's Classic champ, and if he's already in the top 20 in the standings, then drop it down to 21 because you do have 80 guys and you're already shrinking the number of the field, and there's going to be people who want to see that last year's Classic champ who's going to have to be there anyway to hand it off and has earned the right to be in the Classic the next year, instead of a fan vote after you've got guys paying $35,000, $40,000 in their entry fees to get in here.
So you think they're entitled because they didn't catch them?
Absolutely.
They're entitled.
Absolutely. They caught him in the Classic the year before, Mark.
Dude, you got to catch them.
They caught him they won the damn Bassmaster Classic the year before.
Yeah,
they should be in it.
Do
you tell a golfer with a 10-year exemption into the Opens because he won that he shouldn't be in?
Not the same sport.
Exact same. What if he didn't qualify because he wasn't swinging it good that year? You're letting him in the tournament based on previous year's experience.
Yeah, because you know what they do in golf? They have what they call sponsorship exemptions.
Yeah.
All right, this game doesn't have that.
No, I don't think anyone should be in the Classic based on a fan vote. Just don't. Don't like that. Also, don't like splitting it up to 12 and 12 because you've got guys who, the same thing we're seeing in the Bass Pro Tour, get stuck on bad weather days, good weather days, other guys in their group that might be fishing their stuff, guys who might be fishing their stuff before. You've already got a small field of 24, so you're already cutting the weigh-in over in half of what it was, which would be totally doable. So why not put the guys out there? Third, I don't like the fact that you have the other 12 in the expo, where what's in the expo that everyone's doing during the expo is watching Bass Live. So now what, are you going to have a no information, nothing in Bass Live while these 12 guys are standing around with big screens everywhere and every fan who knows what's going on? Now the guys who aren't fishing know exactly what's going on, whether they're trying to gather information or not.
When did I say to cut off the
at 1,
live
but
feed?
It doesn't matter. They're going to be in the show from 8 to 12 with big screens everywhere.
No, they're not. Cut it off at noon then. Have them be there from
Why
noon.
would you cut it off at noon then? We already went through this. I don't like cutting off the live feed. I like having it go through to the end because some of the most iconic classic moments since live has been in existence happen in those final 3 hours. So now you're denying me, a fan, the opportunity who's invested in this all morning throughout the afternoon to cut it off so that the people in attendance watch the weigh-in.
Absolutely.
And you miss the big time classic moment.
Dude,
that's horrible.
That wasn't there until what? Until it went down with Casey Ashley's win when the first time that they live streamed. See, where you're missing it, you're going away from where the core is, that crowd.
I'm not.
That arena.
Second.
Was there energy in that crowd this week? You tell me.
There was some, but not a ton.
There wasn't.
Right.
You know why? Because everybody knew what was going on.
Okay, why would you also shut down the expo during the weigh-in if you have vendors who have come literally from all over the world and there's people who are not
over?
Listen, I let you say your piece 100%. Why would you shut down the expo when you've got people who have paid X amount of dollars per square foot, come from all over the country and the world for this? If you have people who want to be in that expo spending money instead of being at the weigh-in, do you give more incentives possibly to go to the weigh-in? Yes, but if you want to watch it on the big screen while you spend money with the sponsors and vendors who paid money to be there instead of going to the weigh-in because that's not your cup of tea, or maybe you don't care about the fishing, but you the tournament fishing, but you like fishing and you get off work because it's a Friday at 3 or 4, then go spend the money and watch it on the big screen while the vendors get more bang for their buck. The only thing that I liked that you mentioned was I do like the smaller field. I understand why they have the bigger field though, because you're actually cutting money out of the Angler of the Year payout, and in return you're giving half the field a chance to be in a classic. So really you're giving them that Angler of the Year money back, Mark, because that carrot is, hey, I know we're not paying out as much in Angler of the Year, but 50% of you will be in the classic, which is a guaranteed $10,000 and the opportunity to change your life. So now you better either really jack up that Angler of the Year payout to what it was before, because now you've got 1 in 4 in the classic, or I just don't like it.
You just solidified my argument.
No,
man.
I didn't.
Yeah, you did.
The only thing I like about it is end the thing on a Saturday and run the show again on Sunday, to where people can come meet that classic champ in those booths. He can make the rounds, and there's a lot of people who work on a Thursday, Friday, won't be able to be there. Maybe they got a ball game with their kid or something on Saturday. Yeah. They can come see everything on Sunday. They do a highlight show, all that stuff. That is a good idea.
You just solidified my argument, though. All right. Are you kidding me? You think that people are going to miss out on sales if they shut the show down for an hour and a half?
Yeah.
You just, and then the other statement that you made was
because they don't care about going to the weigh-in.
People don't care about the weigh-in. That's a problem.
Some people don't. There's people who want to go to the show.
I talked to them, Matt. I talked to them. They don't care.
Why is that a problem?
Because they don't want to go over there and sit for 3.5 hours.
So what? Now you're forcing them to?
No.
By shutting down the show?
I guarantee you that if it was only an hour and a half and they only had 12 people to sit there, and watch and root for, that it would be a complete different situation.
But you don't split the days up. Now we're in this weird MLF hybrid deal.
No, that's not the case, because what they're doing is you're competing against those 12.
But you're not, because it's still different conditions.
You know what,
based on where you... So you want to have the random luck of the draw on which 12 you're in, and then whichever classic guy that the fans want to vote in also be in that tournament, and then not have the defending classic champ be there?
See, you're forgetting about the fan. All right? You're forgetting about the experience.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, you are.
I'm maintaining the integrity for the fan of this tournament.
You want them to sit in front of their PC and watch everything instead of experiencing what's taking place.
No.
You are forcing people to watch rather than to attend.
You're forcing people to do both by shutting down the expo.
For an hour and a half, they used to do that, Matt. You know why? The focus needs to be on those 12 guys that did what you said, paid their 30 or 40 grand or whatever the number is, all right, and earned the right. They busted their tail. It wasn't just something that was 1 for 3 or 1 for 2. They were the cream of the crop. The top 20 guys in this game.
And you don't mess with it.
Earn that.
It's 3 days. And it's your cumulative weight after 3 days.
3
It's the
days.
way it's always been. It's the way it always will be. And they're all on the water at the same time.
It's time to change.
It is not time to change. That's the part why of the 50th Classic, why it's so special, is because it doesn't change. That's the format.
It's time to change, man. It's time to change, because the dynamic of what was
then
the
how just go to
BASSMaster
Redcrest
Classic
next year and skip the
Dude,
Classic?
that's not it. That's not even close. All right? It's not even close. The dynamic of what the epic involvement of what takes place in that arena, it is an iconic feeling. All right? To have that place jam-packed with people that want to be there, rather than what I witnessed and what I continue to witness, because of the platform of, 1, people already know what the outcome is. 2, they would rather sit at home and watch everything, even in the local area, of what's developing on the internet.
I also think on the final day
reason.
that there were a lot of people there. The problem was this time, instead of dead centering the stage where people could sit around the entire arena and fill up the entire lower bowl and see the screen from the right side and from the left side, they angled it to the left. They angled it to the right.
Not even close.
It was completely full all around and almost on the top there, but all the fans then looked across to the empty seats that were on the opposite side of the arena, because people couldn't sit there because you literally couldn't see it, the stage or the screen. So I think that took some of the juice out of the building.
No,
it wasn't like that when Randy won.
It's always been that way. There's always been that backdrop or some kind of opening with side. I know, because last year when we were in Knoxville, I snuck up there to take videos. All right, hear me out on this. That was option number 1. Option number 2, of which you didn't let me get to, option number 2 was forget about the split and just weigh in 24.
I'm much better with that than the split.
Okay, and just reduce that down. The only reason that I bring up the split idea is what I witnessed at the show and what I've witnessed in the previous years.
Right, but if you want to meet them, just have all 24 there on Sunday.
You can do that. All right?
I would be much more okay with that.
Those were my 2 options. Either splitting it up and doing it 12, but I don't know how long it would take to weigh in 24 guys. We see it on the final day.
Not as long as 53.
You're right. All right? So those are the options.
It would take as long as the final day, because the final day is 25.
Well, there's a lot of hype. Think about everything that builds up to that whole deal.
Right. So you weigh in the 6 and that, and then you... Okay.
Right.
What are people saying, Mark? What is the...
with the split, they're comparing it. I didn't want to compare it to anything that MLF had going on. That was not my intention. My intention is what I have witnessed over the previous years, the engagement with the fans.
Mm-hmm.
All right? That show and the lines that I saw for guys and girls standing in line, it was unbelievable.
Brad Hallman.
It just triggered in my head, dude. That's what it's about.
Yep.
It's that engagement with the fans. All right?
No,
and
I
think we're losing that because, 1, we know what the outcome is. 2, you don't have that scenario of which guys that are in the event, unless you're not successful and you're on the show on Sunday, or in the show on Sunday because you didn't catch them.
No, I agree. Like, I understand why you would have your premise, but
maybe the split, and like I said, I had 2 things and I had them both written down here. maybe the split is not the right way to go, but I think the field size definitely needs to be 24.
I appreciate the ingenuity, but, you got to do something with the Angler of the Year payback again if you're going to cut the field.
But it's not there. They don't have it. There is no Angler of the Year payback.
I know, but you're still got 53 guys at 42 of which are on the Elite Series. Now there's 23 guys that you're taking $10,000 guaranteed out of their pocket just because they didn't qualify.
I have two things to say on that, and I'll say it to anybody. One, catch them. All right. Two, build into your contracts that you have signed with your sponsorship that if you finish 43rd or above, you get a bonus.
I'm just saying, that's your. I understand it should be difficult to make the Classic, but I think part of the number in the Classic this year for that was a smaller Elite Series field with the reduced Angler of the Year payout. That's the carrot is, hey, you're getting into the Classic with a chance to win.
Look, man, there's three things that need to happen, and I've said this for years. You have to take care of the fans, you have to take care of the sponsors, and most importantly, you have to take care of the anglers.
Yeah, I agree.
All right? Now, if there's a better way, like I said, this is something that I've thought about. I'm looking dead in the camera, all right? There is no influence. The only reason that I split up the days on that is because I thought it was a way for the fans to be able to interact with these guys.
I get it. And that's the same way with the vote.
Busted their tail.
With the vote.
That's it.
But I'm also not okay with the dude finishing 21st and not fishing in the Classic because some dude caught him for 3 days in 1994.
Do we need to give everybody ribbons?
Or 5 or 6
medals
or 7.
or whatever? That's what's happening. Everybody thinks that because I didn't finish above 20 or higher, that I deserve something. Go out and freaking catch them. Bust your tail. You know what? If you're losing out on that $10,000, then build in your contract that, you know what, if I finish in 40th in the Angler of the Year standings, give me a $5,000 bonus as long as I do this.
I got you. Still keep the nation champion in there. But
you still keep the open guys in there.
The guy who wins each open division still gets in. So
yeah.
All right, I hear you. I mean, I'm not trying to rip it to shreds. There's parts of it I don't like, obviously, but that's it. Ingenuity.
But let me wrap this up with this. You feel, right? And obviously, this may not be the answer. I mean, it may be way off base.
It's an answer.
But you feel that nothing should change, Matthew. Right now, you feel everything should remain exactly the way that it is. The way it
needs to be sped up 100%. There's got to be a way. Whether it's you heard the guys you didn't catch them through, and you earn your time to go across and talk like that, and it's you stand them out there like the kayak anglers did, like finishing today in 36th, 35th, 34th, 33rd, and then you roll in the top 15 every day or something. I mean, because this is what I did, Mark. I went and I've never done this before. I watched the first day in the stands. I sat with Steve Gillum and Tennyson in the stands and drank a beer and ate a hot dog and sat there when the gates opened until the weigh-in was over. Got in there at 3:30, 3:45. Didn't walk out of there till after 8. I was tired. And it's an injustice to those guys who get there at the end and people are walking down and leaving it and they're 40 guys in because they're 6 hours into the weigh-in at that point. And they're the end of the boats. So yes, I think something needs to be done to make that weigh-in closer. Do you sacrifice the integrity of the tournament by not giving guys 3 days all, on the water the way it has been? I don't think absolutely not. Do you change that 3-day 5-fish format? Absolutely not. Do you end it on a Saturday? Have the show on a Sunday where all 24 guys are there then? Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I think that's a really great idea.
Yeah, by the way, some people on the instant feedback, no, I included the nation. I included both opens, the open champions from both into the field. So, I think I got it all cut. And by the way, it would be narrowed down. I mean, to the fan vote, you narrow it down to 4 anglers and then the fans vote based upon these 4 anglers.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So it's not just the entire former Classic field. Once again, just trying to think of ideas to creatively get the fans involved. Is that one spot going to make the difference? Could.
I mean, you have to remember you're the guy. I do have to remember you're the guy who came up with the golden ticket concept where for $100 you buy your shot, then they pick one guy to fish in the Classic. So I guess this isn't as bad. All right. We got to wrap things up. Hallman's here. He drove with me. He just rolled into the studio. He drove.
What, was
yesterday.
he asleep outside in the truck?
No, I dropped him off at Ed's house at 4 a.m. and because that's where we met beforehand. But anyway, I drove all the way down there and then a couple hours back, and then I actually zonked, and then Hallman drove the rest of the way. So he's a zombie. But we got 70 pounds of big bite plastics in my trunk that we got to get organized and switched out.
He looks a little wiped. All right, I want to say this and wrapping things up. Once again, as usual, the staff at Bass, tremendous support. They do just an outstanding job with the media. Chauncey, everybody else there running the media room. Could not ask for a better group from a support standpoint on what Bass's media staff and everything that they do to help out everybody there in the media room and make things go smooth. So once again, just a outstanding job by all the staff at Bass during this Classic. All right, final thoughts, Matt.
Man, it seemed like it was over after day one.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I remember this Classic was. You just got to come in, and Hank weighed in third, and everyone went, ooh, 29, wow. You kind of knew on Bass track, you're like, there's got to be someone else, and no one made a run at him.
Yeah.
Lester did a little bit, but not much drama in this Classic. Heck, you have World Series, you have Stanley Cups, you have Super Bowls that are over after the first half that are swept in 4 games, and this was a 4-game sweep.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what happens from the fallout, the good fallout from Hank's win. Will we see a spike in sales and in products that he used? By the way, a clean sweep in the top 6 for Mercury. I cannot recall that happening.
He'll be flying off the shelves now.
The Super 6, all Mercury guys, and then Basscat had 3 of the 6.
Yep.
So quite a good tournament for both of those manufacturers. And just a fun week, man. Fun week.
I agree.
Yeah. Any thoughts on where it might be next year?
Yes, but let's wait
you
for
have
a little
insight?
bit more confirmation.
You have insight?
I was really wrong on where I was really sure it was, so I don't want to hypothesize on my new.
Do they move it around? That's the other thing I had a lot of feedback
honestly,
from people.
Let me say this, Mark.
Yeah.
I don't think they have a lake picked out yet.
Yeah, where would you like to see it?
Where would I like to see it?
Yeah.
Lake Eufaula in Oklahoma.
That would be cool.
Not going to happen.
No.
I don't think they have a lake picked out yet. I think they got it narrowed down. I think they've got an area. Don't think they have a lake.
Maybe. We know one thing for sure. It's not going to be in New York. It will be in the South somewhere. All right, everybody. Tomorrow, John Cruz. We're going to have John Cruz on tomorrow. Talk about his Classic and get some insight on his week on Lake Guntersville and in Birmingham at the 50th BASSMaster Classic. So, everybody be safe. We will be back tomorrow. Brad Hallman, a week from Monday, breaking down his little project and Matt's project with Big Bite Baits. So, looking forward to that. Everybody be safe. That's it. We're out of here.